You're listening to Intuitive Style, where we believe that everyone has style. I'm your host, Maureen Welton. In conversation with fantastic guests, we explore how to tap into our style intuition so that we can dress authentically and live fully. Today's guest is YouTuber Rachel Margaret. On her channel, Rachel shares about mindful consumption, joyful dressing, and self-compassion within the style and beauty space. In our episode, she shares about how compulsive shopping feels in her body, legitimizing her own preferences, and moving beyond perfectionism. Seriously, you're going to love this. I'll let her take it away. I have been a really big fan of your YouTube channel, Rachel Margaret, for a while now. I know I just heard that you started only a year ago, so that's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, January of last year. Yeah, that's when I started.
Wow. So, can you share a little bit about what your channel's about and how you got started?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I think I've always wanted to do something like that, at least since I became an adult. I wanted to do something creative, but I'm a perfectionist and I've always kind of held myself back. And so about a year ago, I just uploaded a Project Pan video because I knew if I overthought it, I was just not going to do it. So I just uploaded a Project Pan and I've been kind of trying to just be consistent and do it ever since. And it's slowly evolved over time. Now, I would say that it's mainly about developing a relationship with consumerism and style that is, well, that flows from a place of contentment and joy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've really struggled with compulsive shopping in my own life, and I also thought it might just be helpful for me to share my own thoughts for me, really, and then also hopefully for other people too. So,
Yeah, absolutely. I was just thinking about all of that really comes through in your videos, this idea of contentment. And I think it's such a nice kind of positive way to deal with what can be kind of a tricky subject, which is like
yeah,
struggling with overconsumption. So, um,
yeah,
to that point, I think it can be kind of hard to discern when we're shopping the right amount or when we're shopping too much according to like maybe our own preferences. For
mhm.
you personally, what did shopping compulsively feel like? How did you know that was something you wanted to address?
Yeah. It is a fine line to walk. I think it can be really hard to know what health looks like in so many areas of our life, but in shopping, with shopping in particular. I think for me, a really good gauge of the healthiness of a particular action is my ability to pick up or put down that action as I please. Or I guess to use a different analogy, like to turn up or turn down the dial
Mm,
as need be. So I guess just to clarify, I've never been diagnosed with a shopping addiction or compulsive shopping or anything like that because I think that the behaviors exist on a spectrum.
yeah.
And I'm sure that there are people who deal with it much more severely than I do. But just for me personally, I began to clock my relationship with shopping as compulsive when I would be shopping for some normal reason. And, I had the dial turned up a little bit and I would recognize, okay, it's enough now. And I would go to turn the dial down and I would be unable to. Um, and it was kind of like, I was thinking about this last night as I was falling asleep, but it's kind of like being caught in an undertow in the ocean in a rip current. Has that ever happened to you?
Thankfully, no.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
it's
familiar.
scary. It's happened to me and it can be really scary. It's such a strong current. And I think what they'll teach you if you get caught in an undertow is to try and swim well, don't try actually to swim directly into shore because if you do, you'll get worn out. The undertow will be stronger than you. Instead, you're supposed to
Mm,
swim parallel to the shore until you get out of the rip current and then you can swim
mm,
back. So it's kind of like that for me when I'm in I call it like a shopping spiral, like any compulsive
mm-hmm.
shopping episode. I I'm able to sense that the action is compulsive um, or distinct from regular shopping behaviors because I'm no longer just swimming in the ocean. There's like another force outside of my own logic, my own discernment, my willpower, and it's acting upon me. and it's pulling me out to sea, preventing me or making it much harder for me to do what I would like to do, which is to swim back to shore. So that's kind of what
Yeah.
it feels like. And that's what I'm working on, which is just keeping my hand on the dial and making sure that I'm connected enough with myself to be able to turn the dial up or down as I see
Yeah.
fit. Yeah.
I mean, you have such a beautiful way of speaking, and what a great analogy, this idea of the rip current and just, yeah, it's such a great way of thinking about it because to your point, it's not about putting a label on or some sort of diagnosis because I
Yeah.
think that can be, very overwhelming. It can be overly medical. It really takes you out of your own experience and your own experience of what what you're feeling and what you're struggling with. And so almost I think it's so important to teach ourselves what our threshold for compulsive behavior looks like because it may be, compulsive behavior for one person is like potentially much smaller in comparison to someone else, but that doesn't mean that it still doesn't feel out of sync. We all have like our own threshold. So I think that's the main reason I wanted to ask you is like how can we learn what that feels like for us? And I mean, just what a great answer. And also some ocean safe swimming advice. I didn't know that
Exactly.
that
Yes.
I didn't I
Don't
wasn't
swim to shore.
I didn't have that on my bingo card. But a great reminder for the upcoming summer season. So at the end of last year, at the end of 2024, you shared a really authentic, raw video about only keeping your favorite clothes and what that taught you. You start that video with, in the past, I wouldn't have said that I was very self-critical or that I didn't trust myself, but I have a closet full of other people's opinions and preferences that proves otherwise. For anyone who hasn't had a chance to watch that video yet, can you just share how you came to this realization?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, I feel like I've come to this realization in the past. I've learned it before, but with so many of the things that we need to learn in life, we learn it. I learned it then, and then I've had to learn it again and again and again. And each time you learn it, it gets deeper and deeper and more settled within you, and it actually starts to become a part of you. So it's not just something that's in your head, but it's something that you really believe and act out of. So just for context, a few months ago, I stumbled across this really beautiful wooden wardrobe, and while I was out thrifting, and it led to this whole series of epiphanies and realizations. And one of those realizations was just a desire for fewer things, I think, or for like a more curated selection of things, my favorite things. And I've known that on some level. I've recognized that desire within myself, but I've struggled to implement it. Like there's always reasons to have more, to keep that shirt or that pair of pants just in case, right? Like I lose
Hmm.
weight or I gain weight or I get invited to this very specific kind of event. It's like you can always find a reason to keep the maybe items, even though they're just so. But there was something about seeing that wardrobe that day and having this vision before me of a life and a closet that included only my favorite things. And it really gave me an impetus, I guess, to like shed that outer layer that I've always held on to. Um, and so as I was decluttering this most recent time, and I guess also in previous declutters, but I could really see the parts of my wardrobe that were not reflective at all of my own preferences and desires, but of someone else's. And this might be embarrassing to admit, but for many items in my closet, I could actually tell you, like, oh, yeah, I purchased that when I was following so and so,
Mm,
or I got that when I was binging her videos. And it just became exceedingly clear that I was in a habit of seeking legitimacy for my style by copying the style of others. And I think that that is very normal. It's really natural,
yes.
and a lot of ways subconscious. Like when you're first starting out finding your style, it's hard to know where to begin. And And it makes sense that you would start by copying what you see. It's like trying something on, like a persona or a silhouette or a color palette. You have to trial and error those things. But I mean, yeah, experimentation is necessary. It's necessary to learn ourselves and develop our preferences. It's just that for me, I think that experimentation began to flow solely from the
Mm,
outfits and style opinions of other people. And yeah, I just kind of used that realization to trace the line back and to see what was true, which is that I didn't seem to trust myself. I didn't
right.
consider my style preferences as legitimate enough to be the source of my experimentation and my purchasing. And
Yeah.
that's why and how I came to that conclusion.
I mean, it's just so powerful, this idea of, we're delegitimizing our own preferences. And I say we because same.
Yeah,
Like, I
right.
so relate. I mean, there are so many different people, like influencers, that I have really fallen deep into a rabbit hole around, and I just want to copy exactly what they have, even when they are saying, don't buy what I buy. Like
Yes.
sometimes they would even say that, and I'd be like, I don't care. I'm gonna do it anyway, or like it's just, to your point, it's human nature. We want to just try stuff on, and that especially when we're unsure of what we want, it can be easier to just be like, oh, I'll just try this then. But
Mm-hmm.
I like to say everyone has personal style. Like, we're not getting dressed. We're getting dressed. We're putting on clothing. And so when we say we don't have style, we're saying maybe our style isn't as good as someone else's, or maybe it doesn't resonate with us in some way,
Mm-hmm.
which either one is fine. But um I think like what I resonated so much about your video is like we have the opportunity to just say that my taste and my preferences are enough, and that's okay. And
Yeah.
I never really heard anyone say it that way before. So I really want to appreciate and acknowledge like how powerful that was. And I appreciate you sharing that. Um, Maybe let's talk a little bit. I mean, in that video and video sense, you just seem to be like glowing in a way that you hadn't before. And I don't necessarily mean physical appearance, but I mean more like an energetic kind of thing. But I would just love to hear like how does like an update. How are you feeling now? Are you still feeling that kind of energy that you had at the time? Like how is getting dressed feeling once you had that realization?
It's feeling really good. It's feeling really good. Actually, recently I went out thrifting for my birthday and
Happy
I had
birthday.
another kind of like mini wardrobe epiphany while I was shopping, and I just realized how I wanted to be more playful with my clothes and enjoy color more, and I've tried to figure out how to do that in the past, but I never really found a way that clicked with me. It always felt a little bit inauthentic, and it's probably because I was trying to do it the way another person does it. But yeah, that's kind of where I am at recently, is just really feeling a lot of freedom around being creative and using my wardrobe as a source of expression, and also just not taking it too seriously. um, it can be it can be hard to do. It's funny. I mean, it's just clothing, but it can feel like you really want to figure it out and have something that works and have it be all certain. But it's yeah, it's just not. It's a lot of like playing and
Yeah.
middle and yeah.
Yeah. Uh, Random question. I'm curious if you relate to this at all. Like in the past, I will have, bought something or been drawn to something, and then I'm like disgusted with myself and I'm like,
Mm,
oh, why did I like that? Like that's so
mm,
like weird, or that's so bad, or like even like this like striped shirt that I'm wearing today, which
yeah.
like I like now, but when I bought it I was like, okay, this is really cool. Like I really like how I'm gonna wear this. And then like a year later I was like really into like very Scandi minimalism, and I was like, I can't believe I bought this like pink striped shirt with a gold thread. Like, how gross is that? I mean, I'm just curious, like, have you ever had purchases like that where you're like, I don't know what I was thinking, but you actually like the item?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I think it can well, it happens for me when I get into like uh, a bout of watching a particular person with a particular style, and suddenly I'm looking at my closet through the filter of that other
Yeah,
person's style, and I'm like, they would never wear that, so it must
right,
not be good style, right? Like, and again, it's not as I don't think it's as conscious as that. It's not
right.
like we go in our closet and think that exact thing. I think it's very under the surface and yeah, hidden away. But I definitely have experienced that because then I'll come out of that bout of following that person and suddenly I like it again. So what is
Yeah,
going going on there? Um,
man.
yeah,
I
I
mean, I
agree.
hear that just as like one person's style rabbit hole is not good
Mm,
for us. It's
not
not good
good,
for us. I
not
mean, it's
healthy.
like we gotta balance out our inspiration sources.
Mm,
So let's talk a little bit about what you wear. So I'm getting to be to that point. I'm trying to care more about why people wear stuff instead of
mm.
what, so that I can have a little bit more detachment. So I would just kind of love to hear, how do you decide what to buy and what to wear?
Yes, that's such a good question. I've had so much fun like looking through your notes and answering these questions because it's like a good mental exercise. I don't really know, the answer to that. I didn't know the answer to that going in, so it's just fun
It's
to think
not an
about.
easy one.
No, it's not. Yeah, I think, well, like I mentioned before, I think it used to be much more random and based off whatever the inspiration was that I was receiving from people off of the internet, basically. And then like I mentioned recently, I was thrifting for my birthday, and I went into the dressing room and I tried on this combination that was just slightly, I don't know, out of my comfort zone, like a little funkier, a little more fun, more playful, and it was like something clicked in my brain. I can't explain that. And then to make a YouTube video about it, though,
Yeah,
just try to explain it somehow. But yeah, I just started to understand. I just started to have a sense of how I wanted to play with color, how I wanted to add playfulness in. And in a lot of ways, it was the first time in recent memory that I can remember having that inspiration come from myself as opposed to
oh
someone
yeah,
else. And it has been so wonderful. It's been so fun. It's such a different way of approaching clothing. Um, but yeah, I think, well, just to answer the question, I have criteria, that I
sure.
think about when I'm wanting to add something in. But I think for the current phase, the current iteration of my wardrobe, it definitely has to start with that feeling of joyfulness when I put something
Mm,
on. And that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm looking for the fanciest clothes. Things can make
mm,
us feel amazing for a lot of different reasons. Um, a cozy sweater, isn't necessarily going to make us feel the same reason, like feel amazing for the same reason that a fantastic dress or a power suit, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't deserve a place in our closet if it makes us feel good. So I think firstly, it's just kind of that checking with myself and seeing if the item has that intangible quality of joyfulness. Like if it makes me want to sing, then that's a good sign.
Ooh, singing. That's new.
Yeah,
Okay, I
yeah.
haven't thought about that. Cool.
Yeah,
Are
and
you a singer? Or is it
no,
just
I
like
mean, I
a
think I say that more, not a good one, not a good
okay, fair. Cool.
but more just if it brings out um, kind of a silliness, a goofiness, a
Yeah.
just a confidence, a I don't know, a lightheartedness.
Mm,
I think that that's what I mean, and I can tell when I put on when I put on something and I feel that way. Um, and then that probably really greatly overlaps with the second thing that I thought about, which is does it suit me? Like, does it suit my life? I've lived enough
yeah.
life and I've done enough experimentation, I think, with my wardrobe to have a realistic sense of what works for me and what doesn't. So colors, silhouettes, lifestyle considerations, all of that. But it's got to check all the boxes, and it it doesn't mean that I'm never going to go out of my comfort zone, but I think that there are ways that we can play and experiment while still keeping like the practicalities in mind. And I
Yeah.
find when I don't keep those practicalities in mind, I regret it. And I never end up wearing the new thing if it doesn't suit me and suit my life. So that's a big part about, yeah, just a big factor in deciding what I bring in, what I wear. And then lastly, I think it is um, the question of does it work with what I already have? Like when I'm
Yes.
considering adding something in, I try to think of at least 5 different outfits I can create with that new item from the things I already have. And it's got to come really easily. Like
Mm.
if I can come up with 3 outfits, but then I'm racking my brain to create more, then it's not going to be a great addition, to my wardrobe. It's probably more of a fantasy piece, or like I like the idea of it. It's 80% of the way there, but there's something missing. So yeah, it really has to work with what I already have.
Yeah, I'd love to go back to kind of one of the points that you made about trying to figure out how you want to play with color. I really relate to this as far as, I've done so much experimentation. I really learned so much of what doesn't work for me. And I kind of got to a place where I was like, oh, maybe I've discerned a little too much, and things are starting to feel a little bit like same, same. And, I'm not getting the kind of versatility that I was hoping for. So, can you talk a little bit about how you balance this idea of knowing your preferences while staying open to things that you haven't before? Like, what about that experimentation with color today maybe feels different than experimentation with color you've done before?
Well, some of it I do think is those filters of other people's style,
Right.
removing those as much as possible, because I think in the past when I've looked at color, I've been like, ugh, like neon or gross, like it just because I think I was
Yeah.
thinking, well, black and beige and white are cool, right? That's what cool girls wear. And I don't know, just really letting those ideas infiltrate. um, and it's just what's trending. It's just this kind of and if black and beige and white make you feel incredible, then I think go go for it. But yeah, I think some of it is just trying, if possible, to limit how much consumption of that inspiration from other people, or at least balancing it with how much we play with the things that we have and what's ours. And then the other thing, I think, like if I'm thinking about adding something in, it's maybe balancing not playing enough and not playing too much. So for example, if I'm going to add a pop of color, then I'm going to make sure that the shirt is a silhouette that I know I feel amazing in.
Sure.
For example, making sure that it is like 2/3 of the things that I feel comfortable with and 1/3 experimentation. I think that that can help to, yeah, increase the chances that it will work, or at least increase the chances that you'll actually know if you like that color. Because what if you're trying a shirt and it's not your silhouette? You're not going to really be able to discern if it's your color, because it's getting jumbled. So I just try to
Yeah.
focus on um, making sure that it's, if this was a white piece, I would grab for it, and then I just change one thing about it.
That's such a good example. Um, and definitely something I can relate to as far as like, yeah, that two-thirds, one-third's different is like within a category or an item, either the color needs to be consistent, maybe the neckline or the silhouette in some way. But just one of those things might change. That makes a lot of sense to me. And I've certainly been experiencing that myself with like realizing that all my t-shirts are white and I'd like to have a navy t-shirt, or I'd like to have a white t-shirt that's like gray but also a turtleneck. And so like to that point it's like pretty close to what I have, but just like a tweak on it with the color, or that it's a turtleneck instead of a crew neck. So that makes sense to me, and I definitely relate to that idea of like just slight tweak, um, but
Right.
still falling within what you already know you like.
Yeah. And you're kind of like walking out on a limb, when you're experimenting. So you can only do it one step at a time. And you don't want to jump all the way to the end of the limb. And, I think it's good to just make those small changes, though it's hard to do. It's like what everyone says, for instance, when you buy a house, or when don't get everything at once. Don't just furnish everything, wait and take your time. And I think it's the same. You
Yeah.
can always benefit from going a little slower. Yeah.
Totally. Totally. So we talked a little bit about how it feels in your body to try something on and maybe it feels a little bit lighter or you feel I think you said a little bit more like silly or just kind of like yeah that lightness.
Mhm.
Are there any other like physical kind of indicators that might tell you that something is for you, like specific texture, fit, etc., that help you decide what to buy or not?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think I've noticed this more since having kids. Like having major body changes just makes you more sensitive to the fact that, I used to be that when I reached into my closet, I basically knew how everything was going to fit me. But with each subsequent child, my body has shifted, and especially with the third. And, um, 6 months after having her, it was like I just didn't have any certainty that I could reach into my closet and know what I was getting, that it would fit me, that it would make me feel good, all of that. So, um, yeah, I think just doing the work there, taking the time to adjust and not just, I don't know, kind of dig my heels in and be like, well, this worked for me before, or, taking the time to care for myself, my new body. And yeah, I think the main thing I can think of in terms of style is just having something that's high waisted enough. I'm really tall, and there's something about having a rise that's high enough that hits me at the small of my waist. And for me, that's like it's 12 inches plus for the
There
rise,
you go.
or it is not hitting me at the small of my waist. And it's a small detail. I was about to say it's a silly detail. It's not silly. It's small, but it makes a big difference in how I feel. And so I don't know, just paying attention to the little preferences, and I don't know, kind of like we're talking about that legitimacy of like nothing. It's not small. If you don't like
Right.
the texture of that shirt, if you don't like the way that pattern is, let it count. Let it matter. Let it. It's
Yeah.
okay. Like you're the one who has to wear the clothes.
Right.
So it matters and it counts. It doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
and two kind of thoughts come to mind with that. One being I think like having children is such a good example of like extreme body change. And I just want to say for anyone that's listening, like me that hasn't had kids, but is in like a female body and has experienced a lot of change, or even really anybody, and has experienced a lot of change. I think I just want to acknowledge that the human body is not stagnant, and it's almost like we're bringing this. Sir, speaking from my own perspective, and kind of what I heard from you too, it's like there are phases where we think that we know what we're getting, and then when something doesn't fit the way that it used to, it feels like it's wrong and it's our fault. Um, I don't know, you didn't say that specifically, but that's certainly how I would feel is like, oh, I didn't have a baby. Like, why is my body changing in this way? And then I felt a lot of shame around that. And so I just want to acknowledge like that's such a great example. And also, like we can have really big body changes that are not connected to like creating life.
100%.
And just
Yeah.
for anyone that relates to that.
Well, to be honest, my I didn't gain much weight in my pregnancies. All of my body change would happen in the postpartum, dealing
Yeah.
with the emotional the emotional toll of having a baby. And it
Yeah.
was it was 100% something that I could very easily feel shameful about, because it was my, choices around food, my choices around movement, my, whatever it might be. Um, it wasn't necessarily because of the hormones or something. It was, um, yeah. So I totally agree that it can happen for 100 different reasons. Our bodies are shifting all of the time, and it your body always deserves care. Your clothes are meant to, fit you and not the other way around. So,
Yeah, I think as a collective we're coming around to that idea
mhm.
finally, finally, and
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Um, oh, there was something else I wanted to go back to that you said that really struck me, but if I remember, we'll come back to it.
Okay.
Let's talk about your style evolution. Have you gone through any memorable style phases?
I definitely think my style has evolved. Thank goodness. But I think the main thing I noticed when I look back on old pictures is that I was never really a risk taker with my style. Like, I wouldn't say that I ever had a definable aesthetic. Um, for example, I was into emo and indie bands in high school, but I didn't have a wardrobe to match that. I've I typically fall on the spectrum of I love to ideate and dream, but I've struggled with how to bring my thoughts out of my head and into reality.
Hmm.
So, probably the biggest way that my style has evolved is that I'm actually taking the vision that I have in my head and acting on it. Um, and I'm getting more and more comfortable with expressing in that way, taking style slightly less seriously, maybe. Like, things don't have to be perfect. It's supposed to be fun, and it's okay to go out on a limb. It's okay to trust your preferences, and it's equally okay to walk back from a limb that you were out on and say, that wasn't for me. Um, so maybe I'm just getting more comfortable, I think, with the style as a form of expression, and it's taken me a long time to get there.
Yeah, and maybe this is a tricky question, but just kind of one of the things I just heard you say is like you knew or you felt that there was some sort of gap between how you were hoping that you were dressing and how things, what you actually wore.
Mm-hmm.
Could you maybe speak a little bit more about, you know, what that gap was? Was it like an ideal that you had in your head, or was it um like something that felt really um true, but just there were other things going on in your life that was stopping that? I want to understand that better.
Yeah, I think that there was a few things going on probably. I think one of the things is perfectionism. Just thinking that I had to have it all worked out in my head before I stepped out and did the thing, whether it was wearing the outfit, starting the YouTube channel, doing whatever it is. Always feeling like I needed to be more prepared and never feeling prepared enough to actually start and to express. And I think that there's some fear with that as well, like fear of getting it wrong, fear of being perceived, fear, it's perfectionism is just a type of fear. So I think that that was probably a big factor. And always really admiring the people who did make bold choices and had something, I don't know, had something to say. Like, they had a point of view. I think I was really stuck for a long time in just being everything to everybody, kind of general and nothing very specific. And really confusing that with, um, I don't know how I would describe it, is confusing that with love, like that's what's most loving to the people around me, is to be something kind of general. And actually, I think that there's a lot of joy, and yeah, that it's really very loving to actually be yourself and to be honest and to express, because you're actually trusting the people around you with something that means something. Um, yeah, you're not, if you're not being vulnerable, if you're not showing yourself, then I don't know, you're not giving anyone anything of value. Be something specific, I think, is what I would
Yeah.
say. Yeah.
I mean, you just said so much great stuff in there. I'm like, how do I even, like, how do I even go from here? Like, I mean, I so relate to the perfectionism, and, maybe I heard a little bit of people pleasing.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
And yeah, it's almost like, I don't know if you relate to this, but I'll just say from my experience, like, growing up evangelical Christian,
Mm.
in the Bay Area, which is like it's such an oxymoron. But like I grew up Southern Baptist, and
Yeah.
just so much of the culture was around like being humble and not really trying to like take up too much space, right?
Mm.
It's like if you don't want to be too much, you don't want to take up too much space, like almost this feeling of you need to make yourself smaller so that other people can be bigger. And that's
Mm.
what like humbleness or like love looks like. And I just think that can certainly related to how I felt around fashion is like on this one hand, I wanted to be like really this fashion girl and very like expressive. But on the other hand, I had this part of me that was like, but don't take up too much space. Like you should be smaller. And I don't know, I just felt like that whole like dichotomy was just so confusing. Is like, where do I fit with all of this? And I think like just for myself, I've kind of landed at this middle place, which is like I'm not super into pattern, stripes notwithstanding. And I really like to have really funky like silhouette and shape and just being more expressive in that way. So there's a little bit of like that quiet and a little bit of that loud. But I don't know. I kind of heard like some nugget of that like shrinking or play. Uh,
Playing small or
yeah,
yeah.
like just I don't
Yeah.
know if any of that relates.
Yeah. Well, I grew up as a Christian as well, and I am currently a Christian. But I do think 100% that it can get it can get confusing. It can get really confusing, this message of like, make sure that you're loving, and I don't know, it just gets really bogged down with a lot of I personally, I believe, like, misconception about what that means,
Yes.
you
Yes.
know, and what is actually loving. What does love look like? And for me, it was really my relationship with God that freed me from that, because I
Mm,
felt like I had to be God. Like, I had to love all these people really, really well, and part of that was really playing small. But actually, I don't have to do that. I can just be myself. And that has been, yeah, just so incredibly freeing across the board. And I do feel like style is one of those areas where I get this release, to just, um, again, just the joyfulness, the be joyful, be free, take up space, be something specific, like all of that. I don't know. Yeah, it's
yeah.
something I feel like God has told me,
Right.
and it's very it's sad to me, I think, that it's gotten so mixed up, or can be so mixed
Yeah.
up.
And to be clear, like I think what I was sharing wasn't necessarily from like what I would understand from God. You know, like so much of what I was experiencing was the culture
Yes,
around
right,
God and the
right.
culture around Jesus. And I think that you can have like a Christian faith that is like very loving and accepting. And you can also
Mm.
have a Christian faith that is really structured and controlling. And I think it's really about acknowledging that religion and that experience of the religion is very specific and can be what you make it and the community that you seek out around it.
Mm.
And I think just some of the things that I picked up again were more cultural than like maybe so I just
For
wanted to
sure.
clarify it's not a
Yeah.
critique, it's
Oh,
just
yeah.
a observation, I would say.
For sure. For sure. I think it is very easy for people to move from a place of fear and control. And yeah, I see that a lot in Christian culture as well.
And
Um,
it happens outside of
and it
Christian
happens outside of
culture.
Christian culture too. So it's just
Yeah,
people, right? It's people
it's
being
people.
people,
Yeah,
and really trying to move from love as much as possible makes a big difference.
yeah, yeah, totally. I remembered what I was gonna say earlier, which is basically you were talking about the rise on your jeans. This is my
Yes.
PSA. If you don't have a clothing like measure, tape,
Uh-huh.
get one. To anyone listening, get a measuring tape. And then if you're shopping online, like secondhand, or if you're going to a secondhand store, get out that tape measure and see, will this fit me the way that I want it
Yes.
to?
And do you know the trick about putting the waist of the pants around your neck?
I haven't done it, but I have heard it. Does it
It
work?
works. It's
That's
crazy to
crazy.
me. Like, does that mean that our necks are half the size of our waist?
And that's kind of what I'm hearing.
That's kind of weird.
That's my
It's kind
takeaway.
of weird, but it works. If you put it around your neck and it fits comfortably, then it will fit your waist.
I
Who
should
knew?
try that with the jeans that I have and see.
And see if it
Uh,
works.
yeah, do a little test.
Yeah.
So we're recording this towards the start of 2025. Only 2 months in. But anyway, do you have any style or personal goals that you're hoping to work towards this year?
I do. Yeah. I mean, I think it connects a little bit with what I've already shared. But I'm excited to be more playful with my closet this year and to go out on more limbs. Um, and again, I think to not take getting dressed too seriously, and maybe at the same time to take myself more seriously. So,
Ooh,
have more fun with clothing, take more risks, because that's a desire that I find within myself. And I
wow.
would like to do that as much as possible. And and as much as possible to give legitimacy to my preferences and desires in the area of style. And yeah, I'm just looking forward to stretching like the creative muscles and having fun with my clothing this year.
Wow. Are there any like specific things that you're drawn towards that you want to try this year, or is it more just like a general openness to see what happens?
I love putting together two things that are unexpected. Like, I love interesting color combinations. I love playing with textures and playing, like, combining styles in a way that isn't maybe an automatic reach, an automatic go to. So I think I'm looking forward to that, just combining things in a way that um, I wouldn't necessarily normally do, but I don't know, kind of do that and then see what happens, see what I can create, see what happens. Maybe do some makeup, not makeup, dress up, playtime in my closet, and I don't know. Yeah, I think interesting combinations, unexpected combinations is something that I'm really drawn to and something that I want to explore. Um, and maybe also jewelry, and I love fun jewelry and earrings especially. Uh, I never do anything with my hair. I never do anything with my hair. And I think that hair can be a really big part of
Yeah,
style and kind of overlooked or just thought of last. And so maybe playing with my hair more. Yeah, those are some things.
cool. Cool.
Yeah,
Well, if you feel like sharing any of that on your YouTube channel, I will
I'm going
happily,
to.
happily follow along. So, on that note, where can listeners find you?
They can find me at Rachel Margaret. That's the name of my YouTube channel. And I'm not on any other social medias because it makes
Don't
me
have to be.
anxious.
Yeah, yeah. I will
So,
make
yeah,
sure to include a link to that in the show notes.
that'd be
So,
awesome. Can I answer the question about the
yes,
advice?
I don't know why I'm missing this question. I did this yesterday too. I'm
That's
so
okay.
sorry. I just am enjoying our conversation so much.
I'm enjoying it
Um,
too.
I'm trying not to look at my notes too much. So, what advice would you give to someone trying to build a wardrobe that feels intuitive and authentic to them?
Don't overthink it. And I say that as someone who has definitely overthought it, overthinks it all the time. But you know what you like. You know what you like. On some level, you do. You know. And of course, I think you might know more in the future, right? That tends to be how it goes. But um, you have to work with the information that you have right now. And I just think trust your intuition when you're getting dressed. You can't mess it up. There's always another chance to get dressed tomorrow. And you're going to learn so much along the way. Like, this is an as you go type of thing. So you have to learn it as you go. Nobody's born with good personal style. You have to learn it as you go. The trial and error of it all is necessary. So try new things, trust yourself, and keep getting dressed.
Incredible. Incredible. I love it. It's so true. It's so true. Trust
It's so
yourself.
true. Just get
And
dressed.
trust
See what
yourself, get
happens.
dressed, see what happens. Awesome. Well, thank you for reminding me because I love that question.
Yeah, I love it too. I really wanted to share. I was
Yeah,
thinking
no,
about that. I
thank
was like,
you.
what would I want to tell my younger self?
Oh, yes. Yes. And also, maybe it's something you have to learn over and over again.
Oh, for sure. Yes.
Well, as we said, I'll include a link to your YouTube channel in the show notes for anyone that wants to follow along. And
Awesome.
thank you again for joining the podcast today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it was so fun to talk to you, Maureen.
Intuitive Style is produced, edited, and hosted by me, Maureen Welton. In case you missed it, Intuitive Style, the podcast, is an offshoot of Intuitive Style, the Substack newsletter. Head on over to Substack, search Intuitive Style to see the newsletter, which includes thoughtful reflections on what's happening in the fashion world, guest features, and my encouragement that you can create a wardrobe that fits your life as it is now. No judgment, no rush. Our theme music is by Noir et Blanc V. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to rate and review on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify, or share this episode with someone who you think might enjoy it. Don't forget to subscribe, as new episodes drop weekly on Fridays, and you can listen wherever podcasts are found. See you next week!